going on? We got Casey from Golden Gate Star Fortune, man. Thanks for joining.
Yo,
Where we
what up, man? What up?
not too much. Just got home from hanging out with family. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Same here, dude. I'm stoked to fucking be here too. Stoked to see you.
So what
Glad you had
you've been looking at some crazy stuff recently, like basically the history of California and the water systems there and some of the causes for some of the anomalies we see on some of these maps and on some of these YouTube videos, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, um, it's a trip because fucking I've felt like when I got into the Tartarian into this research, like the dams and the reservoirs, like for some reason they just really felt important. Like they had a major part in this, and like right away as I dug into them, like it was quite obvious. Like a big part of them was that they were bearing, they're burying cities, they're burying mines. Like there's all that kind of aspect, like what were they doing, and going down the rabbit hole of like the hydraulic power and how they basically like manipulated these rivers and created these hydroelectric dams and selling us back the power, and that whole mess, and like so that was like plain and clear. But like it like, well, first, shout out to Pat. Fucking me and Pat have been digging down this like for the last couple of years, and we keep getting little nuggets and um keep getting more nuggets, and like um basically like just during one of our little research jams, like it popped to my head. It was like, dude, it's damned. Like they damned the island of California, like, and
Yeah.
even at the time it didn't make sense in my head. Like I just even like when I said it, I pictured that like they just put two dams on like the top and the bottom of the channel, and like that's how they dammed it up. But like through like basically we basically had to go back to elementary school and like learn about rivers and tributaries and the aquifers and all the basins. And yes, to make a long story short, like I believe that the reason that California is no longer an island, I believe it was an island for one, and I believe it's no longer an island because it's been dammed up. All the major rivers that would flow into the basin that would create an island of California have all been dammed up. The water's been funneled to create cities. I mean, basically all the major cities in the West: Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco is thrown in there, Sacramento, Denver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
Well,
yeah,
when you first described it to me, the thing that shocked me was the correlation between what was taking place with the Native Americans and the actual takeover of the United States, and like in the same time frame that some of these dams that you showed were popping up in, which was shocking to me, which made me believe what you're saying because you showed a map of all the dams. I'm just like, wow, this is insane. For anyone who doesn't know what you're talking about, can you bring up a map of the California island real quick?
right. So and to just give a little, just to give a little history to people who might not know or whatever. Like, so there's let me pull this up first. We'll get the thing
Shout
going.
out
So
Eli
this
and
is like
CJ.
this is I like this map a lot because this is kind of what we are up against when we um, look into this history shit. Um, so basically, I think it was from 1510, the year, and it was a book called Las Sirgas de Esplandian, and I believe he's a Portuguese writer. It was like a chivalric romance, which were like possible at the time, like a hero's tale or whatever,
Yeah.
And in the book, it describes this on the right hand of the Indies was an island of black Amazons. And so when like so in the 1500s, when the Spanish were fucking conquesting and um, Mexico and California, when they came upon an island east of the Indies full of these Amazon women. They naturally called it California. And it's shown up on maps. It basically showed up on maps from the 1500s until like the 1800s. Not all the maps have it, but most of the maps have it. And this particular map right here is from around 1500, like late 1400s, early 1500s. And so what makes this really, really interesting is that this map is considered like the first accurate description of the Rio Grande River. And so that is this right here. I don't know if you can see my little cursor guy, but
Yeah, we
this
can.
is the Rio Grande, and it comes into the Gulf of Mexico. So awesome, but like,
Yeah, what
what
you
about
just
this
said,
fucking?
what you just said is exactly the point you're trying to make here. This is an accurate map of the Rio Grande. This was made to be accurate because this is someone's job. Trade required is dependent on this, the economy, people's reputations. So what would be the
Exactly,
point? What would
exactly.
be
Like, and like really, the only debunking they have, like, it just doesn't make sense. It's like these people were making the first maps of our world. This guy is making the most accurate map of Rio Grande, but he's fucking totally blew it on this fucking gigantic island, just to the west of it. It just makes no sense. And that's basically the story. Is like, these Spanish, like Cortez and all these like famous names, they were just idiots, basically. They cruised up the Sea of Cortez, the Gulf of California, and were like, they they didn't go all the way. They were just they just assumed it was an island, based on this fairy tale, and just how big it was. And so they just like turned around and were like, cool, like it's just it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
yeah, it's
So I'm convinced it was an island, like 100%.
yeah, I just think it's really strange how they cherry pick these sources and whenever it agrees with what they want to get across, it's reliable, but any other time they either didn't know what they're talking about or were exaggerating, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Shout out to the
um
chat, Drew. Shout out, Gianna.
oh yeah, this is another map from 1630. They're all pretty detailed, and like oh, there's Mendocino. I mean, yeah, I mean, dude, it's like, look how detailed this fucking shit is. Like, I don't know if you've gone over these on your channel before.
I've seen
um
some of them before,
yeah.
but
um so like, we'll bring this up, this Anian. This is like a mythic strait that was supposedly through America, and we'll get into that because I could show that really existed too. um yeah, man, I mean, it's been hundreds of years of these maps. um they're not
1660.
stupid. Like, yeah, this one's 1660.
This is not too long
um
after the foundation of Harvard, so
right. um and when we start looking at like the current maps today, like, the, I do think the water levels were fluctuated. Like, some years it might have been deeper, some years it might have been like deltas and rivers. um but yeah, we have the Rio Grande here. What's interesting, like, the Colorado River like doesn't really exist in a lot of these. Yeah, I don't know.
what do you think about that?
Well, I think so. There's a mythic river called the Buenaventura River. I really just came across it like not too long ago, and that's what I think this is here. I actually think that it is the Colorado River. Um, probably the original fucking route and path of the Colorado. Because it's been totally, all these rivers, and we'll get into it, all of these rivers that from the Columbia, Snake River, Colorado River, all their tributaries, all fed into this basin down here. At these maps, fucking, I love looking at these old maps. Like, this is 1676. Again, we have Anian up here.
Do you remember the most recent one you found with California Island on it? You said 1800s.
Let's see if I have it dated. This was like 1773. Let's look. And it's not just the Spanish or Portuguese making these maps. There's ones, there's Japanese ones. There's all kinds of stuff. But like Mendocino, Cape Mendocino is a place. There's always like a Francis Drake, and that's like the Bay Area.
So how accurate would the first place be, the Cape Mendocino or Mendocino?
I mean, it's accurate as far as it's like in the northern part of California. These maps, I don't know. They're not all like perfect, for sure. In the sense that I think that I actually honestly think, and I think we'll come back to it again. Like, it's hard to not jump super far ahead. Like, I'm trying to move into this slow, just for people watching as well. Like, and maybe this particular map isn't the best to like say, but I feel like all these maps, most of them don't have a lot of stuff north of California, up into Canada and stuff. And the reason is, I think it was like a bunch. It was a lot of Channel Islands, kind of moves. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. It was a lot more islandy, is what I
There was
mean
waterways,
to say.
like there was a bunch of
Exactly.
waterways going through there.
Right. Yeah, it was a lot more delta-ish. I honestly think a lot of America was a lot more delta-ish, and I mean, that kind of gets into. I almost think I should just pull up a current map so I can kind of break it down a little bit. Or maybe I should let me pull up this other one. Sorry. I like this map because it kind of helps get the geography going. And this kind of leads in, I guess this plays into my thesis as well, as to why would they dam it up? Why would they get rid of it? Like, so this map here, it shows like the annual flow of the rivers, which makes, the reason why some are fat and some aren't. But I like it a lot. I'm not really too concerned about the flow of the rivers. I just like, because it shows it really well, and like, so this is obviously the Mississippi. This is the Missouri River. It comes off the Mississippi. We have the Rio Grande that comes out of the Rocky Mountains, and magically, it's the border between Mexico and Texas. We have the Colorado River, which starts just a little north of the Rio Grande. Up here, this is a Snake River. The Snake River comes down. This is Yellowstone right here. And the Snake River starts in Yellowstone, and it actually connects um, the Snake River connects through, there's a Pacific Creek, and then at the Continental Divide, it becomes the Atlantic Creek, and that connects the Snake River to the Missouri River. So, like, and fish can still make that journey. So, like,
Yeah, and we
a
have old
boat can
sources
make the fucking journey.
we have
Yeah,
sources talking about trade routes coming in up here in this area on the west coast, coming all the way down into the Great Lakes area, and you can see here how it's kind of connected even with all the dams in place.
totally.
And another
And
thing,
I'll go ahead.
yeah, the other side, like the way that the eastern side of the United States looks is likely what the western side of the United States looked like before.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so to rewind back a little bit as to like why would they do that? Um, in my opinion, after the War of Independence, 1776, they needed to build an empire. They needed to create an empire, and all of the land west of Mississippi, I think, was like river deltas, um, islands, fucking the Rocky Mountain Islands. You know what I mean? Like, and it did this this whole thing that I'm getting into not right now is really just scratching the surface, because like I feel like the next rabbit hole I'm going down is like this basin here. Um, long They needed to build the empire. They needed land. They needed fucking places to put people, and like the only way they could do it, because there wasn't this land there. I think a lot of this was underwater. They had to dam it up. They had to fucking build land. They had to create cities. They had to divert the water to these cities, and control people in this environment. Um, so that's the why. I don't know if I just threw that in there, out of turn of what we were talking.
No, I mean, I
But
agree with you when you're describing it to me, that's what made the most sense is that they basically set up these dams as a way of controlling, what was taking place during this time period, right? The Indians were getting pushed to the west by the United States government because the time period that these dams were mostly just constructed in was what, from like the 1820s up to like the mid 1900s, probably even some to this day. But regardless, a lot of them were in the 1800s during the Indian Removal Act, and then the following wars, pushing the Indians further and further west until pretty much they were just over there in California, right? The best way
yeah,
to control and suppress what they're doing is to cut off their water supply, to completely interrupt their way of life, right?
yeah, totally. And like that's the one thing about that's part of the thing I was talking about, how we had to go back to elementary school and like learn about rivers and how they work. Like, the Colorado River is one thing, but river is not just like a river. There's all the tributaries and the creeks and all that. And like, it doesn't take much to dam off a few creeks, and to like completely stop like it doesn't take much. And like it was hard to look up these old dams, because they have a really good, and again, I tip of the hat to the controllers. Like, they're
Mm.
really good at like hiding shit, or just kind of making catch 22s where it's just like fucking, um we're just like,
Well,
okay,
I mean, there's so much stuff we don't even have access to. You have to be in college just to even like read certain things. Shout out,
right.
yeah, you said it looks like a tree. The old name that I guess the Chinese gave America was Fusang, or like sacred tree.
Mhm.
Shout out Sherry.
Interesting, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and those, you know, those maps definitely look like it, and it's hard. So, like the trick, like, so California and Mexico were technically New Spain up until 1848 or 1850 or whatever it exactly was. So it's really hot.
This is a current map, right? What we're looking at right now is a current
Yeah,
map.
yeah, yeah. Current map. Um, and I have the like, yeah. Let me know where you want me to go as far as looking at, but
I'll just
It's
keep
really
going.
hard
Yeah.
to find. It's really hard to find um, the Spanish history of what they were doing in California and Mexico, and well, at least especially in California, like outside of the missions, they were dropping missions in California in the 1700s, um, maybe even in the 1600. I think it's just 1700s. But like looking up California history, like if you just look up what are the oldest dams in California, like there's nothing before 1848 or 1850 because like that wasn't that was Spain back then. That wasn't California. So it's been difficult to really dig into the history of these old dams because of that reason. Tip of the hat to these fuckers for that. But like a lot of the early dams I found, 1850s, they're all earthen dams, which are just they just pile up fucking rock and dirt and sand and whatever where it's big enough to where like gravity essentially holds the reservoir or holds the water back basically. So like we have the idea of this the fucking the mega dams of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, these fucking gigantic concrete fucking mega structures. But like they were doing dams with just fucking earth for a long time. And yeah, it's not crazy to think of them fucking damming up these rivers even in the 1700s, 1600s.
Well, in our oldest sources in
Yeah.
history, we have examples of people using that in warfare, like all the way back to the ancient Egyptians, like mainstream history, they talk about it openly. So,
Hmm.
I mean, no reason why they
Yep.
wouldn't be able to. And as far as this, America being Albania, I think maybe what you're talking about is the new Albion. I think it's called
Yeah.
Albion, not Albania, but I'm not sure. Maybe you're talking about something different in the chat.
Yeah. It was called Albion for a minute. New Spain. It's like funny. It makes me laugh too. Like reading history of California when they're looking at like the colonization time, they talk about immigrants coming to California, but it's like the white people. It's like
Well, one of the weirdest
it,
things about California that I heard was that Voices of the Past YouTube channel that reads old notes sometimes. At least I think it was on that channel. They had this one where this woman who grew up in California in the early 18 or the mid 1800s, and she was talking about how like the Habsburgs were living in fancy, like it wasn't like the focus of the video. She just let it slip that like the Habsburgs were basically living like nobility in California during those times. And I was like, huh, it's really strange
hmm,
because
that's
The
interesting.
Habsburgs are like the double-headed eagle symbology that you see, the Holy Roman Empire, basically. So this woman's just like talking about how like they're, just living luxurious lives while like some people are living in adobe houses in like downtown San Francisco or something.
Right.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but that's what I remember.
Hmm. Um. Yeah. Fuck, dude. That just sent me on a fucking
It's
rando
all
side
good.
mish there. Um. Want me to get into like these rivers and like how they would have drained into the Great Basin here, like how
Yeah.
how they've dammed everything and
Yeah, because even on that
um
map, you can still see little leftover spots of water. So
totally. So like just geography fucking lesson. Obviously, we're looking at California here. This is a Central Valley. So this used to be a a full lake from Redding all the way to Bakersfield, and it was called Lake Corcoran, and it was fed by the Sierra Nevada mountains, which eastern side of California, and it drained out through. Here's the SF Bay. This is a Monterey Bay. It drained out through the Salinas River into the Monterey Bay. Um, and there's this canyon here. It's Monterey Canyon. It's bigger than the Grand Canyon. It's underwater. They don't really. It's funny. They don't really have an explanation for it, other than like a huge amount of water used to travel through there. But the Salinas River, they say, was never big enough to do that. So they're just like hands in the air. I don't know, and it's just kind of forgotten about.
It's really weird.
And you can even see like Google here on Google Earth. This is the west side of the Sierras. You can see all the reservoirs, reservoir, 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 all the way up. Reservoir. These are all reservoir. There's only 3 real lakes in California: Lake Tahoe, Clear Lake, which is over here, and then Mono Lake, which is down. Oops, which is down south, and so I mean they've fucking dammed off. So now there's no lake in the central. It's become the Central Valley feeds the entire fucking world vegetables.
Well,
Yeah,
you were showing a map to me the other day too, where in this area there's a ton of water underground, right?
well, that's where this was. It's a huge aquifer. The whole Central Valley is a giant aquifer, and I mean that was one of the little light bulb moments too. Is when we were like, oh, the aquifer is like, so this is the Great Basin, and it's like a complete fucking desert, which is weird considering it's right in between the Sierra Nevadas and the Rocky Mountains and like the Cascade Range up here. You know what I mean? It makes no sense until you start to look at these rivers and all the dams on them. So like the Snake River comes from up here in Yellowstone. It comes down across Idaho into Oregon, where it meets up with the Columbia River, where it dumps into the Pacific Ocean. The Snake River has like 9 dams just on the main river. Like fucking trout used to come all the way up these rivers into the center of fucking United States. They can't even make it anymore, like there's so many dams stopping them. The Columbia River flows, from the Pacific or to the Pacific, comes up into Canada. And again, I think the Columbia River has 9 or 10 dams on it, just on that. That's not even counting the tributaries. Like, and it's really hard to find. I can pull up some like maps and diagrams to like look at them, but you can also take my word for it too, that there's like that many fucking dams on it.
I definitely want to see the map of the dams that we were looking at the other day, because I think
I will.
that really brings home the point of what you're trying to describe here.
Yeah.
Because zoom out a little bit real quick if you don't mind.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this entire area right here, that's desert, and including this where it says Sacramento, San Jose, California, at one
Hmm.
point in history, a lot of that was water.
So this was water, and then east of the Sierra Nevadas, this was water too. And so Lake Tahoe's here. Pyramid Lake is actually a natural lake, but it falls in Nevada. But it's just the remnants of an ancient lake called Lake Lahotan. And it even says on the Lake Lahotan Wikipedia page, like it says, well, global warming, is a reason that fucking it's not around anymore. But also, actually, it's not because of lack of rainfall. If it kept its same rainfall, it'd be fine, except for the Truckee River's been diverted 8 million times. So like they basically says right on Wiki that if the Truckee River wasn't dammed up and if it wasn't for global warming, say what you will about that, the lake would still fucking be there. And the actual size of lake was like, it was huge.
Global dams.
And so there was a Lake Bonneville, was the ancient lake above the Salt Lake. And it was huge as well. I kind of picture this as like a crazy delta island system at times, like probably fluctuated, and it's a mix of seawater and freshwater. The Colorado River is a good one. It's crazy, and we'll get into those maps too. When you dig up the dam maps, I mean, you guys, it's fucking mind blowing.
Yeah,
It's mind blowing, and
it's
it's
insane.
terraform. It's insane. So the Colorado River comes down, through here we got, and it basically dies now before it gets to the Sea of Cortez. I think there's 15 dams on the Colorado River, not counting. That's just the Colorado River, not the tributaries. And there's nothing but fucking the east. So like, this is how it goes. Fucking Sierra Nevada mountains. The snow and the rainfall flows west, flows east. There's not much water going west or east anymore because it's all being dammed on both sides. Same with the Rockies, and from up here, water flows down, water flows off these.
So wait, keep that image
There's
right
the,
there. Keep that image right there for
mm,
a second. I'm gonna pull. This is what it would potentially look like without the dams, or at least this is what they admit to in mainstream history. And then this is what it looks like on modern maps and in real life, apparently, according to Google. So that's what it could be. That's what it is.
here, I'm not seeing what you got cooking there.
Oh, it was just the image of the prehistoric lakes.
Oh yeah. I was gonna get to that one for sure. Yeah, so just gotta find these ones I actually organized, so the names
Nice.
are on there.
Yeah, I saw the California Dam one too. So yeah, we can check
Yeah.
those out later.
So yeah, I mean, this stuff is all fun to go through, and stop me if you want to. So yeah, this is the Pleistocene. This is like the last ice age. Like as the caps were melting, they flooded this and created these lakes and blah blah. But so I do think this is kind of more of an accurate picture of what it probably looked like. I think the island of California probably, like, those top parts with like the tree or the toes, was probably up here all the way, like into Oregon. At least up, this is a Columbia River right here. I feel like this was probably the top of the island, was the California River. I mean, the Columbia River. And the its tributaries and creeks, which fed down into the Great Basin here, which fed into Lake Lahotan and etc., was the channel in between. This is where the Sierra Nevadas are are. So like, this is basically the eastern border of the island, and it comes down and come down south into Baja. Um, I don't necessarily think that the California right here is accurate, but
Oh yeah,
I
go
really feel
ahead.
like this is a good picture. That is a good. I mean, this is mainstream off Wikipedia shit. Like, it's not crazy. Like,
Oh, that's what I was gonna
you know
ask
what I
you.
mean?
Do you think this is accurate, or was it even more? Because even
I
with
think
this,
totally. I think it was a lot more. I think it was a lot more. I just think this is like this is a good way to kind of start wrapping your mind around what it could look like, like I think it was a lot more water, and like all the mountain ranges were like islands, like you talk about these cliff dwellings and the Anasazi, like all of a sudden they fucking made all their dwellings in a cliff. Well, what if like the river just like flowed up that high in the valley, and like they were just building their houses on water side, um
I mean, I would see it's possible. I mean, there's the Yellow River in China, for example, is kind of how I imagine a lot of rivers without dams would operate. Because I mean, it used to be so catastrophic because it would change so much and overflow every single year, or like
totally,
how they used to describe the Nile, for example. But obviously, we have all
totally.
the dams and stuff now, so they don't really operate like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they're so choked off and diverted. um
But actually, I shouldn't have left that.
let's see, I want to we can start looking at the dams. um yeah, I think this one's pretty cool. um
I mean, there's a lot of evidence that a lot of, like astrology and the mystery religions are even revolved around these rivers and, certain patterns in the sky that would let them know when they were going to flood certain ways and all that, all that garbage.
Totally. And I mean, and all of these ones, at least on the West Coast, all have like sacred meaning to the natives, in the area for sure. I mean, just like apparently back in the day, like the trout and salmon were like so plentiful in all these rivers that like you could walk across the rivers on the backs of them. That's the folk story, like, and now they're like practically extinct because they can't fucking swim upstream to their breeding grounds and shit.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, this is just, I mean, this is just the insanity. Like, so here's the Columbia River, Portland, Oregon. These red dots are dams by the corpse of uh, engineers. The yellow dams are privately owned dams, and then the triangles are Bureau of Reclamation dams. And what I found it with the dams owned by others, I think it's a lot of power companies and corporation. They're basically corporation owned dams. But just so the Columbia River starts in Pacific Ocean, comes inland, and it doesn't start in the Pacific Ocean, but come on, don't kill me on the comments, but it goes from the Pacific Ocean and it comes up into Canada, and these are all fucking dams, like over and over and over and over and over again. It's fucking wild. This is a Snake River dam, and like this one does show some of the tributaries. A lot of them don't show the tributaries, like I don't, and that just seems shady in and of itself. But like you can see how choked they can make things. All these tributaries have dams. And so like where this valley was, where that used to be filled with water, is just completely choked. It's completely choked out. Same with all down here on
Well,
this side where it flows.
yeah, I mean, they can always make the argument that they're doing it for safety reasons, but still, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the funny thing is, like, these dams like actually are the opposite of safe. um they promote like flooding because the ground's not getting saturated as much because the dams have uh, have blocked the water, and so it makes flooding more possible. I actually think, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much, but I mean the environmental significance of them doing this, of them erasing all of this water that was on our land, and just, I mean, the environmental impact I think was insane. I mean, I actually think that is why there is a global warming pattern. That is why there's these droughts. It's another tricky game they've played is they've dammed up these rivers. They've created reservoirs. These are man-made reservoirs, and when they start to fail, they blame it on the drought. But they're failing because it wasn't a good system to begin with. Like it wasn't ever meant to sustain like that, because to them, they'll just build a fucking new one in 50 years. Like, so
I do think you're
I
right.
read,
I think you're right that it's designed to fail, but I think that maybe there's a different reason why that is, and it maybe ties into what you're talking about with some of these being privately owned.
yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a whole thread too, is just seeing who is controlling this water, seeing who owns these dams, who owns these rivers now and these tributaries, like, is going to give us a good idea of who's like controlling us for sure. You control the water, you control people. I mean, they if you just think about it, they created Lake Mead, Lake Powell, all these reservoirs, like just for Las Vegas, just for Phoenix,
Yeah, and think about the
just for
foundation.
Los Angeles.
And when you look into the foundation of all these cities, you'll see a similar trend of who started them and what was going on there.
Yep.
And then what ended up happening with them. But yeah, let's
Yeah.
maybe save
Yeah.
that for
These
a
are
later point.
totally. I mean, yeah, we'll, we'll get there. I mean, like I said, there's so many threads to get into with this. Like, just figuring out that like the Island of California was actually real is just one of the small things. Again, yeah. I mean, fucking Colorado River, look at all these fucking dams. It's insane. And these are like, this one's cool because this one shows all the tributaries. Well, it doesn't show all tributaries, but it shows a lot of tributaries. And this, so if you look, so this is the Rocky Mountains right here. Obviously, you see this is Utah, Salt Lake, Nevada. So the Colorado River, when it comes down flowing southwest, all of these tributaries coming off the mountains are flowing into this Great Basin right here, the literal Great Basin. And they've dammed every fucking single one of them up. It doesn't show it on here, but I guarantee you there's a dam on every single one of these tributaries. So like, of course, the water is not going to get there anymore. Of course, the Salt Lake is going to go from Lake Bonneville, which is probably, I mean, just on this map right here. I mean, it could have been like, it might not even been like a Lake Bonneville, Lake Lahutan. It's just been like one giant sea, like, even. It's a trip, dude. It's a
Yeah, I mean,
trip.
I wonder if it was even salty back then too. I don't know. But yeah, the amount of dams is unbelievable, and the years that they were constructed in, I think, tell a lot
Yeah.
too about what was going on.
This one, this map fucking literally makes you want to cry.
Oh yeah, this is
This is this is an inventory of dams in the United States by the U.S. inventory. What does it say?
so think
Yeah, by
about
the
how different
yeah.
our entire lives would be without all of this.
I mean, it makes me sick. I mean, fucking yeah, it's wild. Like this is a like just look at the Mississippi, like fucking. It's
So yeah,
sad, dude.
without all of these dams here, I think you could definitely speculate that passageway through the continent via water only was probably likely or probably very possible in the past.
100%. And I can show you that it was. And dude, we touched on this like we touched on this not too long ago. So dude, fucking Lewis and Clark, bro. Lewis and Clark, fucking. And maybe let me. What's this called? So. I can totally explain fucking exactly how you can still do it. So parting of the waters is a spot fucking on the Continental Divide in the Teton National Forest, right there, right there by Yellowstone. And so the parting of the waters, the two, what is it? The Two Ocean Pass. It's where these. This is where the Missouri and the Snake Rivers meet, and they meet through at Two Ocean Pass, parting of the waters. The water is coming off this Two Ocean Plateau. It splits, and its western creek, Pacific Creek, flows to the Snake River, which flows to the Columbia River, which flows to the Pacific Ocean, and the Atlantic Creek, which flows flows to the Missouri River, which flows to the Mississippi River, which from there you can reach the Gulf of Mexico, and you can also reach all the Atlantic distribution of the Mississippi. And like it even says here somewhere, I think it's so in the marshy area of Two Ocean Pass, adjacent to the parting of the waters, water actually covers the Continental Divide such that a fish could swim from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean drainages. In fact, it is thought that this was a pass that provided the route for the Yellowstone cutthroat route to migrate from the Snake River Pacific to the Yellowstone River. So if fish can still make the swim.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And I'll pull it up on the Googs again. And
The goods.
Yeah, what happened to it? Oh, here we go. Put it on my Googs. And so this is the Strait of Anian, the mythic strait that you could sail across America. They wrote it off and said it was a Bering Strait. That's like the mainstream explanation for it, but I think that's bullshit. So the Columbia River, I don't know if this is the best map to really look at it like that, but so the Columbia River comes along here, and then as it goes up north, the Snake River, which comes from the Bridger-Teton National Forest, which flows from there to the Columbia River. So you take the Columbia to the Snake up here, and you get to the Two Oceans Pass through the marsh, and that takes you to the Missouri River, which is this. Yep, is this Missouri River comes up and down and down and down, eventually leading over here to the Miss. And I'm not knowledgeable enough to know how to go to the Atlantic from the Mississippi, but I know you can. And so that's how it's done. And that's literally what Lewis and Clark did. It's so funny, like it's in plain sight, like it's just been hidden as Lewis and Clark.
What's up with the entryway up by top of like Washington or Oregon,
Right.
Seattle right there? What's all this about?
Right. So this is pretty interesting. So I've been kind of torn on like what was the top of the island, and I go back and forth between the top was either the boundary of the Columbia River, or it was the bay, the whatever what this bay is called, I forget. Puget Sound is in there, I think. The thing is that um I'm leaning towards the Columbia River was the top of the island up here in Oregon. So it's basically California and or most of Oregon. And like so these mountains is all volcanic shit, like these Cascade Mountains, this range. The south side of the mountains flowed down into the Columbia River. I think it was a lot bigger than this little dinky thing that it was now, you know. I think it was a lot more like the historical maps.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was kind of thinking too.
and so that's why I think that the it was just more it's similar. I mean, it's more. This was probably full island. I think that's kind of what I was talking about. Whereas I think there's a lot more deltas and islands up here, west and east of like the mountain range, basically.
Okay, so what do you kind of think this process looked like, the transformation?
Um, I mean, I think as they were, I think they were what I feel like they did was they started damming the tributaries, and like I think honestly, I think they realized that like it wasn't going to be that hard, really. Um, not hard to choke out. I even think, I mean, yeah, you can see like just from looking at the satellite images, like all here east of the Sierra Nevadas, all this desert, and it's ancient lake beds, 350 million years old. There's a fucking ancient sea here with megalons and shit. Um, coming all the way coming all the way down here. Like you can still see the geography of it, and coming down here into Baja. What's it interesting about Baja and the Gulf of California? It's like a biodiversity fucking hotspot. Oh, dude, and that leads me. Oh man, that leads me to kind of like you know the the final icing on the cake of all this is that like ecologically, California is considered. It basically is an island. Um, it's actually called the California Floristic Province, and what this means is that all all the fucking plant species in California, it's like 60%. Yeah, it says 60% are endemic to California. That means endemic means this is the only place they're found in the wild. And as you can see it in this picture of the province, I mean, I think this gives like a pretty good idea of what the island probably looked like, because as like islands do, they contain the fucking life there. Like
Yeah,
there's a the Channel Islands down in Southern California, like each one of them like is full of like endemic species. Um, so and like so like this is like again, it's like right here in plain sight. Like I have that book. I think I told you, I might have read it, showed you it last time, but this book, The Island of an
Hold
Island
on.
Called California. Is this work? Oh no, I gotta share I gotta get off this, right? Okay,
No,
yeah.
you're good. Put it back up right now.
Okay.
Put the book back up. We can see it.
Okay. Let me get back to my things. Yeah. So this book, An Island Called California, I found at a bookstore. I tried to find a PDF of this, but you can't find it. And I think it's because this is like a college textbook. Like if you want to be a botanist, especially in California, like this is required reading. And it's not a conspiracy book whatsoever. It's an ecological introduction to its natural communities of California. And like the page fucking one, preface. So she talks about the the myths and the stories of the island, like about the Griffins and the Spanish, and not, how the Spanish were just actually idiots because they didn't sail up all the way. And so so how she let me just read this part, because I mean this is just, again, just such truth in plain sight. So blah blah. Be that as it may, there is ecological validity in thinking of California in insular terms, and that's in insular terms of being an island. Not only is it isolated by a combination of topographic and climate features, it differs from the rest of the continent in a number of significant ways, which, involving as they do, both species and the natural communities where they live form the basic themes of the book. So it's basically saying it is a literal island. The ecologically, biologically, um, it is an island. It still is an island. Um, so like, yeah, those were like real big. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was awesome.
Did you?
Yeah,
Did you?
what sorry.
My main question about the what you're talking about with the animals in the island is: did you look into at all the amount of time it takes for them to become isolated like that, or how long it takes for them to integrate back into the mainland? Since it is there any research
Um,
into that at all?
no, I haven't gone. I don't know about that.
Be interesting to
So
find out because like
yeah,
since it's been connected since at least you said the latest map you saw was the 1800s, so theoretically we'd have over 200 years now of the animals being integrated back into the American continent, right? So
yeah,
you said it was what 60% of the species are unique, or what was it?
yeah. I believe 60% of California's
Plants and
species are
yeah.
plants and animals too, I think. Um,
Well, even if it's just plants, I mean, it's still.
yeah, even just plants. But funny the fucking. Um, so yeah, it's the this official title. It ranks among 33 other areas in the world with many endemic species. It's fucking funny, dude. Just the numbers, 33.
Always always just happens to be 33 somehow. It is weird.
Totally,
But I
totally.
mean, there might not be anything to that. Who knows?
Right. It's just funny. It's just funny. So like, yeah, I mean this stuff is just really interesting to me. I do. That's a good idea to look into, to see like how long. It's interesting. Um, it is interesting how much it still is an island. Um, yeah, the ecological damage from just blocking all this shit, taking all this water off the earth, like I think it created like these deserts, Death Valley, Mojave, Sonoran Desert, like these places were probably much more hospitable to live when there was fucking water flowing through there, like Death Valley has there's ancient lakes in Death Valley. There's actually fucking, it's rained so much in Cali, the last month, the Lake in Death Valley is back, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, like it. The dams can't even contain it when it rains. Like, yeah,
Well, that's the other thing that was fascinating is you had that map of the underground like aquifers or
oh yeah, the
water
aquifers,
storages
yeah.
too, because it lines
Um,
up. It lines up to the areas where these bodies of water could potentially have been. It's really strange. It's
yep.
like because you hear about water always makes its way to its destination no matter what. It finds the easiest path to get there. So it's like, is the water still traveling there
Hmm.
underground or by some other way to where it wants to
Right.
be?
Yeah, when we pulled up the aquifers map, that light bulb moment it was just like, wow, like, because
So look at it.
it,
That's theoretically where all that water would be. It's
yeah,
exactly what we were looking at earlier.
this is the Great Basin, technically the Great Basin, and yeah, I mean, there's multiple aquifers there, and so yeah, this is another one that just paints a good image of like what the island could have looked like based on the aquifers. Like, here's the top. So this is where, okay, yeah. So this is Seattle. So up here, I believe this is probably
The mouth
where
to the old
The
Columbia.
Columbia is. Yeah, to the Columbia. So like these are like, those little the finger toes, or the tree top of the island. And coming down, this is a Sierra Nevadas right here. And this is the coastal mountain range. This is the Lake Corcoran right here. And then this is like Los Angeles. Oops. And then of course it cuts off into Baja, but you get the point. Like, this is, I mean, just Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, like the aquifers prove that there was water there. You know what I mean? Like, it held water at one point. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and now it's all sand.
now it's like this crazy desert, Death Valley, fucking Sonoran Desert, Chihuahuan Desert. Um,
Did you find any evidence of elephants or anything like that so far doing this?
Elephants?
That's what I think this guy's at Guiana is asking
Oh
about.
no, I mean, there's camels. Like, there's camels in California.
Camels.
I almost even want to say, like, it's, yeah, the camelops. Have you heard of that shit?
I have not.
Oh man, yeah, fucking. Um,
What's up, Joe? Shout out to the
uh,
chat. Bernie, Dustin,
I'm gonna spell it wrong.
Rothrob.
Bernie's in the house. Group of camels that lived in North and Central America from Alaska to Honduras.
Hmm.
It's more closely related to the Old World dromedary and Bractrian, wild Bractrian camels than to the New World llama, alpaca, vicuna, and guanana. I want to say that they migrated to like the Middle East from here, maybe. I don't know.
That's what I was kind of.
Um,
I was thinking something
yeah,
like that too, but I haven't looked
yeah,
into
yeah,
it also.
yeah, yeah.
Shout out
Yeah, I don't
James.
want to make anything up, but I haven't come across any elephant stuff really, besides like, like the woolly mammoth and whatever. But um, um, yeah, I have come across the camelops though. Um, but yeah, this is another cool one. Like, this is the Great Basin and the range of the Great Basin. Like, it doesn't seem crazy that. So here's a Rio Grande, Colorado River, Snake River, Columbia River. This is American River. This is American. Missouri. This is Missouri. I'm not too sure what this one is. Anyways, I just feel like this is like, imagine the water. This is how the water, yeah.
This is what I
This is the
thought.
island.
While you're
Yeah.
talking about this and while you're showing this diagram, I thought it'd be interesting to look in to see if the freshwater lakes are getting more salty over time. And I searched it,
hmm
and this is what it says. It says that North America's freshwater lakes are getting saltier due to growing development and exposure to road salt, according to the new large-scale study. So, I mean, this is just at a first glance, not verified at all, but it is weird how in that photo you're just showing that the
Yeah. Let me get
Salt
it
Lake
back.
area the Salt Lake area fits into this basin.
Totally. But so I feel like it was like a mix of salt and fresh water. I don't know. I haven't really, wrapped my mind around that too much, but like, obviously,
Same. This is like all pretty much new to me. This is I'm so glad that you're sharing this because this has been fast. I've been thinking about it so much since the first time you talked to me about it like a week and a half ago. So yeah, I mean,
awesome.
this is all pretty much new to me. The only thing I've looked into as far as this stuff goes is just the Native Americans a little bit and what happened with them.
hmm
So I think there's a huge connection between the origins of the dams and in relation to what was going on with America during that time period. And
Totally. And there could have easily been, like, there could have easily been the natives had dams, not to like the extent that like we came along to, but um, I feel the hard part about looking into the dam history is that like um I just have a suspicion, and this is like, I don't really have necessarily anything to prove this, but like I feel like even like Hoover Dam, these big ones that they did it in our basically our modern times, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like I wouldn't be surprised if those were they were just redoing a earth dam that they had done from in 1850s or 1820s even. You know what I
well,
mean? Like,
some of these floods and events were happening in the early 1900s. Though, for example, in Columbus, we have I don't know, maybe like between 4 and 6 dams within 20 minutes of each, like you can drive between them on the side of a river. And just the way the river has lowered in downtown Columbus, for example, it's unbelievable just because they want to protect Franklinton, which is like the original settlement of Columbus. But yeah, I mean, like I'm talking like now there's literally there's like banks of the river from where it used to be, and now they built like bike paths and stuff on it, and even have like a water park and stuff there. But that used to
right,
be underwater, so
right.
they drastically changed them. Like and this is like
Oh, totally.
the Franklinton flood happened in the early 1900s, which is why I'm bringing it up. So like you know what I mean. So a lot of these
It
were still
matches.
what we got here.
These are all the dams in California.
Yeah, so that you can see how like if these weren't here, obviously it seems that the water would be in the places that's supposed to be in. I mean, that is like what, over 100 dams easily.
Oh, dude, this is like 1,400 dams or something like that.
1,400. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
I mean, that's unbelievable. And a lot of them are
yeah.
privately owned because if they see they're switching over to doing a lot of this stuff in private companies. Now they've like lobbied enough in Washington DC and put the laws in so that they no longer have to share the public records with us and we can't do freedom of information requests
hmm
for what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah. So, according to, I haven't verified this number, but according to KQED, there's 1,404 dams in California, and there's just this this shows one, two, three, four rivers in California don't have a dam on them, I guess.
same here, James. This is yeah, I mean, this is insane. So 4 rivers, and why are they so special? Do you have anything about
I
that? Why?
haven't I haven't looked into what these rivers are yet. I haven't figured those ones out. Or I haven't looked into those yet. I actually just remembered that when I looked at this, I just remembered that these little diagram was on here.
We've had droughts all my life in California, so are these droughts planned intentionally? Because these dams, it seems like if they would get rid of a lot of these dams, things would be flowing a lot more naturally. So are these like intentionally being caused to control people? Because
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, no, so yeah, sorry. Yeah, I do feel like that was part of the long-term plan here. They knew that like these reservoirs would not sustain like just I just feel like they knew like they could probably get 50 years out of them, 60 years out of them. Um, so when they start going down, when they start failing and not refilling, like they promised everyone they would, I feel like the drought excuse is the greatest cover story of all time. It's like we're using up too much of the water. It's a drought. You got to control. The control aspects of drought. You can only water your lawn on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can only have this much water. Blah blah blah. All this control. Everyone's living in fear. Oh my God. If Lake Mead fucking dries up, what's going to happen to Las Vegas and Phoenix and if Los Angeles and all this? It's just fear, fear, fear. When the reason there is a drought is because of the dams. The the rivers weren't made to be dammed up 15 times plus every single tributary dammed up. It's just insanity. Like, of course like they sold it as like this is going to last forever, and it's just not how it works. You can't just recreate the lakes and rivers and expect it to just be the same level
Well,
it's always going to be. So like, yeah, the drought is the perfect. It's like it is like feel like they didn't. I mean, it absolutely is part of the plan. Yes, to fucking the long-winded answer of that is yeah. Yes, fucking the droughts are totally man-made. The reason these reservoirs aren't filling up anymore is because they were man-made. They diverted rivers into this crazy reservoir, basically into a valley. They made a valley into a lake, and of they when they stopped producing as they used to, they blame it on drought and they just place more controls on us. The reason, it's our fault that these reservoirs aren't filling up anymore. It's our fault. We've caused the fucking damage to the environment. We need to buy electric cars, which are powered by hydroelectric dams. It's like it's just insanity. Like, tip of the hat to the controllers again. Like, they're good at what they do. I've said this a million times. Like, these, they make it seem like there's these dummies, fucking, dummy Freemason, blah blahs doing this and that. But no, the people pulling the strings, these are some smart motherfuckers. Like, layers of programs. They built these. They're blaming the drought on us, putting controls on us with power and water. Uh, They're they fucking created all those problems, and
well, you
selling
may,
us the solution 2, 3 times over. How many times do we pay on our power? Like, how many times do we pay, for the water? Like, they're getting us 5 times, like, every time.
yeah, that's what you made a point earlier about it being the dams, you know, will eventually fail and they know that in advance. But I think there's more to that because these people, what do? They move from city to city and they basically lend out credit to new businesses and start this stuff up and make money. And then eventually it turns into like this happens over and over in America. It turns into like a bad neighborhood or a ghetto, right?
Yep.
So say for example, like, all these dams in California. So if they're designed to fail, like, they don't really care. They'll let it fail. They'll leave. They'll move to the next state. They'll come back and fix it later to give credit to the new people to just start over again whenever
Yeah.
they're ready, right?
Totally. Totally. Yeah. It's like, I mean, that's kind of what I meant with like, I don't think they were tripping on like, or it was, they weren't set up to fail. That these dams are like, they knew they would fail at some point, and they knew that they would get paid to fix them. Basically, like it's just the ongoing,
Yeah, so like
ongoing money pit.
so yeah, so like even if they do want to keep using the city, they just pay for it to get fixed. So yeah, I get that.
Like it's just, it's such a good hustle.
The controllers, it's so funny.
The controllers.
Yeah,
That's wild,
so
man.
the origins of cities are basically designed around trade cities. Like if you look up medieval trade cities, for example, you'll see the origins of modern world's fairs, for example. Like a bunch of people who want to develop trade routes and who want to develop a new business would meet up in a city. Eventually, they decided like, oh, it'd be better if we just made this permanent afterwards. So they would test out an area by having these like trade fairs, which are basically world fair events. And they would meet up
Mhm.
and they would meet up in like it even says in like the books that they would meet up in like the most prominent buildings and have these events and decide based on that if they were going to start a city there or not. And think about where the World's Fairs are held in America, for example, like Chicago, Philadelphia, all these places. They ended up turning into major trade cities.
Totally. I
A little
mean,
bit off
yeah,
topic.
every big, the World's Fair is, it all ties into this. I mean, that's how they program people out of even remembering that there was an island of California. You know what I mean? Is through the World's Fairs and the public schools and the Indian houses, the orphan sanitariums, or whatever they're fucking called.
The Indian college thing has been blowing my mind recently. It's insane how much it's related to that. Like for example, completely off topic, but we'll go there real quick. The foundation of Harvard, like in the 1630s, before America was even founded, one of the first buildings they had on record, it's on the oldest maps of the campus, is the Indian College. In the
I,
actual like when they declared themselves to be a corporation in 1650, they had to like write a note out about it. In the actual note, it says that it's designed to educate both white English and Indian youth, like in the actual official document for when they became a corporation. So very strange stuff, especially when you consider the land grant
mm,
acts that a lot of the colleges we have all over the country are the
excuse me.
result of land grants, basically taking the land of Native Americans and putting them there. So really strange stuff.
Yep.
But
No, yeah, and that's
let's get back to the
California. California is all land grants. So it's all Spanish land grants. It's wild. Yeah, that rabbit hole is wild. Is a deep one for sure. Like where these land grants even come from and shit.
corporation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like. Uh, Fuck, I just got fucking thrown off and sidetracked, but I liked where you're going with that. Definitely. The Indian schools that, like, obviously, I mean, they don't even hide that they're reprogramming them. You know what I mean? Like, you look it up, it'll say right on Wiki, like, that they were, it was the war. This all plays into the war on the natives as well. It's like, just that damming up all this and taking away all this water is also just fucked all the cultures that were people who were living out there as well. It's like they just fucking turned their whole world into a fucking desert wasteland. You know what I mean? It's like no wonder they disappeared. Like so much when you start looking into like the natives of the West, it's like, yeah, they disappeared around. I don't know. No one really knows where they went. No one really knows what happened. They just fucking, we think they disappeared around 1400 and something, 1500. And it's like, oh yeah, I know why they fucking disappeared. You fucking slaughtered them. That's why they disappeared.
Oh yeah, they're admitting to the genocide a lot more recently.
Totally. Yeah. And that's part of that is kind of like the trend of like, and I'm not trying to sound harsh or anything, but like, I mean, a lot of this, it's just the trend of it's good that I don't know how, fuck, I don't know how I could say it. I don't know if I should say it, but um,
Well, well, as far as the Indian schools goes, like it's weird because I think the last one in America was in like the 2000s, and then in Canada, I think it was like 1995. So this stuff was still going on very recently.
Dude, yeah, that's like
Trying to look it up right now to find out the exact year, but so yeah, the last one in Canada was closed in 1997. And for America, it says by 2007, most of the boarding schools had been closed down. So by 2007, most have been closed down. So that means maybe there's still some operating right now. Because
totally.
it doesn't say anything about it ending.
Dude, that's like 15 years ago. They're still doing it. I mean, it was
They want you to
there's a
say what you're gonna
crazy
say, so you might as well just say what were you gonna say.
uh I don't remember what I was
Okay,
really remember what I was gonna say now.
we'll move on then.
Uh but there like I was gonna say that also that it was legal to have Native American slaves in California like up until the 1930s, I think. And like Gavin Newsom within the last few years like publicly apologized for that or whatever. Like um yeah, it's just so obvious to me fucking how they were genociding them. I think what I was trying to say is that it's it's good for us in the sense so like the trend I don't know this one okay this is what I was trying to say so like I remember again not too long ago I go down like some PBS YouTube channel of their documentaries and just looking through their history and it was just so interesting to see the trends of the social trends of the time and like the commentary so like there's like a big block of like a bunch of women's rights videos from like a certain amount of time ago, and then um, after that, there's like a bunch of um, the Native like a Native American documentaries, like the trend of that, where it's like, okay, they're taking all this stuff that they used to give credit to the Spanish for, now they're giving it to the natives, and and then now more recently it's more into like the black history of the trend social uh thing or whatever but it is I do like a lot of things that I have a lot of it's more truths in plain sight because like turns out like and this is just I'm talking about mainstream history. It's like turns out the Spanish didn't fucking make El Camino Real in California, which is like the King's Road, the road that all the missions are on. Like they were just using roads that were already there. And it's like, yeah, obviously, it's like obviously, but like stuff like that's cool because I think it paints a better picture of what actually was going on. There was a lot more shit here before these people showed up, basically. Like they came to like some established lands, basically.
Is this what you were
And
talking about a second ago? The King's Highway, the Royal Road, the
um,
King's Highway.
yeah, yeah. Let me find. Let me get back on our thing. Yeah, that's dude. Where's the fucking the stream go?
It says that it's a 600-mile Carmen River route connecting 21 Spanish missions in California. So yeah, I've never heard of it before. So I was asking.
Yeah, the El Camino Real is really interesting. Um, it's it's still a road today. Like Highway 101 is part of it. It goes through a bunch of towns. Um, so originally, yeah, it was like the original story was the Spanish when they're setting up their missions. They created all these the road in between all of them is called El Camino Real, which means King's Road, King's Highway. And actually it stretches into Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas as well. There's a bunch of missions out there like um, that don't get as much credit as the California ones. I think that um, I think a lot of the missions probably moved. I'm not convinced on a lot of the stories that I actually speaking of, like, and this is really funny because it goes back to PBS. I saw a video that PBS did not too long about the myth of El Camino Real, and basically the whole video was just talking about how the roads were already there, um, and that this was a really interesting thing, that it was talking about how, like, the idea of El Camino Real and the mission. So the missions are like spread apart. There's 21 or 22. They're spread apart to where, like, I think if you're on horseback, like, you could get to one a day and make it all the way up, California. What this PBS documentary was talking about was that they actually thought that the automotive industry created El Camino Real and the missions for, so that people would go out and, like, adventure basically, and spend money, and, like, the program, like, drive up and down California and see all the missions basically. And that's I thought that was really interesting. And I think that is probably more closer to the actual truth.
Y-
um at least, with that story, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why it became prominent again in recent times or something, at least. But yeah, did you want to continue talking about some of the California island stuff? Did you have more slides or anything?
Sure. Let me see. I mean, I think we went through a lot of it. Was there anything else that
You could go through some of the photos
that,
and I'll see if
that
something
you can
jots
think
my
of?
memory.
So we did the aquifers, the basin. Well, there. I mean, there's more basins shit. The Mexico City is another great one, and part of the Mexico City history is basically like when the Spanish like literally drained. There's no that it's not fucking. It's not conspiracy theory or anything. I don't know why it's not loading either, but they drained Lake Texcoco, which is like Mexico City was an island in the middle of this lake.
Yeah,
It's not lo-
that was a
it's not
popular
loading
design
up.
for cities back in the day. That was a popular design
Mhm.
for a lot of cities. Even in Marco Polo, Marco Polo describes cities like that in Asia when he's traveling around in his journal.
Hmm, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's like canal cities, like, and that kind of picture of that's how, like, Western America was, Western North America, all the way down into Mexico is like canals and rivers. I think they've probably paved over a lot of the original rivers. It sucks this one's not coming up. I could probably pull it up.
The aquifer map,
But it's
that was clutch because you could just dig into the water if you needed to, right?
Yeah, I mean, supposedly, like, yeah, I mean, and I think that's what a lot of these fuckers are doing as well, like, just digging into the water, selling it to us. Um, yeah, so this was the basin of Mexico, and Mexico City is like southern Mexico. Um, but
Really weird.
yeah, there's these huge lakes, and so again, this is kind of, have to trying to paint a picture of like what it looked like. I've tried to use, a lot of references, and so, like, for example, this was a chain of one, two, three, four, five lakes technically, and so this is kind of how I picture, like, the Great Basin, Nevada, Utah, um, Arizona kind of was like chains of lakes and lots of rivers and creeks, and the tributaries flowing into them. Um, so I kind of picture, it's like a mix of like that other map with Lake Bonneville and Lautan, the maps of Nevada. Like, it's a mix of like a lot of these things. But this is where Mexico City. This is Mexico City here. I should actually pull up on the Googs. We could see what it looks like now. It's crazy. So this is Mexico City now. So what is this actual lake? No.
I think
So
there's barely any of it left, if there's any at all.
no, there's not. So like,
And they have
so
a city there called Texcoco now.
yeah, right. So yeah, this tiny little thing here, Mexico City, and that's probably, I think, what's that one mountain?
Wow, the way you just said that just changed my entire perception about it, actually. Yeah, it probably was that big still, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, they're totally, yeah, dude.
Insane.
I
Can you go back to the other map one more time?
yeah.
It can't be possible.
But like all of this is like where the city is now. Like they've completely built out all of this. That's this. That's all
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, I've seen
Wildness.
there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the old maps, like I've seen maps of it where they have like an entire city built out with like, for some reason, Muslim symbols in it. I'll see
Hmm.
if I can find it real quick.
Oh yeah, here's the town Texcoco. Yeah. Yep, and yeah, that this map here, or this is supposedly from 1519 when the Spanish showed up. This is like what they found apparently. So yeah. Let's see what else I got. What else did I get? Um uh the Cali reservoirs, dams by year completed. This one wasn't as
Did you just
great, but
comment this? Someone says that there was also a mission tour in Germany released from the German Automobilia Club, ADAC, similar to what you're describing earlier.
really
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, see, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, I mean, it's like a lot of this, a big part of like these dams and rivers, the reservoirs. It's like they're they've they've curated this realm. They curated this realm for the empire to fucking populate itself. They've curated the cities that are only there because they've had to divert these dams or divert these rivers to create hydroelectric dams to power the cities. You have your reservoirs, your little fun reservoirs. You could camp with the family, go fishing in a fake man-made lake. Like everything is just so curated.
That's probably why a lot of our body's water is so filthy too. Like just
Totally.
the man-made areas, because it's not doing what it needs to be doing because they've changed the water system so much.
Yep. Totally. Totally,
Never,
man.
not with our consent at all. Just lobbyists doing this.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. These are this is a map of the reservoirs, and yeah, the reservoir is a lake created by a dam, and yeah, so obviously there's dams on every single one of these, and like, dude, like this one right here. So Almanor, Lake Almanor. This was an interesting one. Um, I think there's an ancient maybe lake there, but I mean, look, like just on this river, one, two, three, four, five, six,
And
seven dams just right here on this one.
yeah, and the idea behind that is
You
that
know,
those bodies of water are not supposed to be they're not supposed to be resting in those locations, which is why they're so dirty. or they
Yep.
need treatment before they're used, right?
Totally.
Because if they're
Totally.
flowing naturally, they would be clear, like the examples we have throughout the United States of in other places that aren't as controlled or polluted. You have completely clear water you can drink.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you should just be able to drink right out of the thing.
But you did have another an image before too that I think it showed like a graph of the construction dates of the dams.
Oh yeah. Um, I do I do have those, and that I'm still, I mean, this is still digging down the rabbit hole of like the earliest dams I can find, and it's been hard. That's all, like even and I can't let you search like Spanish dams in New Spain or whatever, like it just the results are just like insanity. Dams in California. Okay, yeah, there's this one probably we're
Yeah,
talking
this is
about.
it. Yeah, Google's pretty much useless when it comes to search results now. So
Yeah, it's like yeah, I mean fucking and so the dams, these are the number of dams in California starting in 1850, and that's it. That's the one thing that I was kind of talking about earlier is like they won't give you like California history before 1850 because that that was that was New Spain. That was Spain. That was part of Mexico. Well, first it was Spain, then it was part of Mexico. And so like it's really hard to find like uh, history like this pre 1850. So um,
it,
right now that's kind of the best we have. But
I think it probably
um,
exists, but we just don't have access to it because once
right,
again, you have to be initiated basically to get access to a lot of historical documents. You can't get them without being a member of a
totally.
university.
Or yeah, or at least have to pay for it. But like a bunch of dams, like um, there's there's a creek, San Mateo Creek, a little south of San Francisco. They were damming in like the 1860s. Um, that's just some of the earlier ones that I found. These are all like um, earthen dams, essentially. But
Well, I
there's like,
mean, earthen dams
you
are
know,
more natural though. They'll filter the water a little bit too, right? I mean, I don't know.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think so. It's definitely at least like not as big of a project as doing like Shasta Dam, Trinity Dam, like these big fuckers. These things are like, you know, eighth, 10th wonders of the world type of things. Um, but they were doing building dams out here in the 1850s for sure. I think it was definitely earlier than that, but at least
Millions of acre
we can go from
feet.
this.
Millions of acre feet. What does that mean?
That I don't
How
know.
tall it is or something? I don't know. That's strange.
Possibly.
Number of dams. So we
Uh,
have in 1850 we have it looks like under 100 dams, and then
mm,
it takes up until the 1900s to get over 200 dams.
right, but even then, by 1900, like there's already 200 dams in California. That's fucking insane. It's just wild. Like didn't even have fucking. They weren't even electrifying cities really by then. They had 200 fucking dams.
Yeah, it's probably just because they're used for different reasons too. But the
Well, yeah, no,
timeline is
for
weird,
sure.
especially
And there is, yeah, of course, like they're not all hydroelectric dams, although a lot of them are. But fucking, there is different kinds of dams, and I think there actually is like a responsible fucking like sustainable way to do a dam. And I think um but I don't know. I do think there probably is a way to like make it not destroy the fucking environment as much, but um, it's definitely not how it's hooked up now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they're useful
Yeah,
for various reasons, but what they're doing now, the amount of dams that they have, it's definitely seem of a control, if
yeah,
anything else. I mean,
100%, 100%, fucking 100% control. I mean, you move to Las Vegas, fucking thinking you're fucking be styling. Next thing you know, they start talking about fucking you can't use your water this day, you can't water that day, then you're fucked, you're stuck. It's like you're there.
but
It's
one thing that doesn't make sense though about the we were talking earlier about, like I was speculating that the dams were put up to control the Native Americans or to basically, put them into to submission. The genocide of the Native Americans in California, according to mainstream history, was only, I think, between like the 1830s and 1880s or something like that. So only if by 1900 there's only 200 dams, does that discredit that theory, or is it they didn't need that many dams, or maybe happening a little
I
bit
mean,
longer than what they give credit for? Well, who knows?
yeah, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying, and that is like you know, the one fucking hiccup with this, whole idea and theory. But I honestly think that like it was probably very strategic, and it's like they kind of like they worked backwards from the creeks up to the rivers, and I think that one dam on a river like can really fuck shit up, like a lot more than you know they would ever say, a lot more than we even really imagine. Like I think one dam can be enough to like
That's
really
that,
fuck shit up, and then like put five of them behind that as well. Like, like
that's what I was thinking.
I
Is
don't
like
think yeah,
it probably takes what 2 to 3 dams to basically control the water system of San Francisco, for example. You know what I mean?
totally. I mean, yeah, and fucking the water of San Francisco they get from Yosemite, like hundreds of miles away. It's wild.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense since their reservoirs are aquifers underground, and the natural drainage, according to mainstream history, at the maps we've looked at so far in the stream, it would be there if they didn't put
Totally.
man-made
And
structures in the way. So it doesn't really make sense at all.
yeah, I mean, and totally you can um a lot of on Wikipedia when you look at like if you look at these ancient lakes on Wikipedia or like the rivers, they'll even say like the it's not rainfall and drought isn't the reason these lakes aren't here. It's the GW is the first answer they always give with the easy one. But then the second answer will always be that, you know, if it wasn't for GW and the river being diverted and dammed a bunch of times, the lake would still be as it was, fucking 15,000 years ago or whatever, like it says that on almost all these ancient lakes and rivers, like
Yeah, really weird stuff.
and yeah, I mean you know, I actually yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip fucking I think we're getting well, I mean, we've been getting these last 2 years in California, we've gotten like the heaviest rain we've got in a long time. And a lot of these old lakes are coming back. Like, it's like that lake in Death Valley,
Oh yeah, no
it
matter what
doesn't
they
it doesn't take much to go either way, like you can like Mother Earth fucking, is unpredictable and can take back whatever, whatever, whenever, you know.
the people the people designing the dams are not better designers than the architect of the universe, and the water is going to go back to where it wants to go regardless, which is likely why there's still aquifers there. But did you have
Yeah, for
did you have
sure.
did you have any other things you want to talk about in relation to this? Any?
Um, I don't know. I think we covered a lot of it pretty good. Um, I don't know. Can you think of anything?
I just wanted to ask one last thing. It was like, have you ever heard of the C notes or the cenotes and that are allegedly
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sacrifice where they'd sacrifice people and stuff in Mexico? Do you have any examples of that in California at all that you know of?
I don't think so that I can think of.
Well,
Uh,
it's hard to find because they like censor it. We have them in Ohio, but they don't call them C notes or cenotes. They call them blue,
right.
like a blue hole or something. Because there's this
Oh
place
yeah. Oh, go
like this.
ahead. Sorry, bro. Forgot.
That's all good. But yeah, we have this place here in Ohio that used to be public called the Blue Hole. It's one of these, and now it's on private property
Hmm.
for some
Of
reason.
course, yeah.
But
So much of this stuff is on private property.
I'm curious if
Um,
there's if because I found them in other places besides Ohio too that they're kind of like hidden. There's tons in Ohio. There are so many. It's unbelievable. But a lot of them are on private property or hidden.
I went to one in New Mexico called the Blue Hole, I think. I think it was called the Blue Hole.
Yeah, a lot of them just have this like it's dilute the search results or something. I don't know. Like
Hmm.
they don't want people to know about some of this stuff for some reason, whatever the reason is. A lot of them they can't find the bottom of them. This one connects to another hole apparently that they use for like a trout fishery. I was looking into it
Hmm.
the other day. Really strange.
Um,
But yeah, there are
yeah,
tons
totally.
of
And there's always like accidents, diving accidents. So like they don't want people diving down into them either. A lot of them
yeah,
will be like have gates down there so no one can explore.
that's the ones in Mexico I was hearing about people drowning in there. Appears to be is this from Ohio or is this South Dakota? Yeah,
Um,
this is it says Blue Hole, Castalia, Ohio on the picture. So yeah, this is what it looked like before they started messing with it. This is an old photo before it was developed, apparently. Really
that's
strange.
pretty wide. Check out the Blue Hole, New Mexico. I think it was.
I'm just gonna search California too.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good. I actually jumped in this one.
Really scary.
Yeah, the cenotes are wild, and they're fucking everywhere. I actually think, and I don't think I'm talking out of my ass too much, but I think they are. There's a lot more of them than they say there is. I think fucking
I can't remember the number, but in Ohio, it shocked me when I heard it. It was like it could have been like honestly, it could have been like close to 1,000. I don't remember how many it was, but I was just because
wow.
no one talks about them.
I mean, that's fucking uh insane. There's fucking
I don't know though. I'll look it up real quick too again to see, but maybe I'm like extremely wrong. It was hard to find information about them to begin with because for some reason it's like a censored topic. It doesn't make any sense.
right. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is they don't, fucking obviously don't want people going down in them. I saw a thing right here that says just in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico has an estimated 10,000 cenotes.
Yeah, so
And that's the Gulf of Mexico side, I
and
think.
that's just in that area too.
Yeah, that's just that peninsula, Yucatan Peninsula. That's like the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico or whatever.
I didn't find anything when I searched California, but I'm also using Bing right now, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I'm
Something
trying
to
to
look
think.
into though, at least.
Yeah, totally, totally. Um, there's something where like Lake Tahoe, like there might be like an underground river or rivers from Lake Tahoe to one of the to somewhere because I feel like bodies have like washed up. There's like a kind of a weird spooky myths about that, like underground rivers from Lake Tahoe and shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird mythology around them. The sacrificing thing is what's strange to me too, because they didn't
Yeah,
necessarily. I guess they didn't necessarily think the people were dying. They thought they were like popping up somewhere else or something.
I was like, it was a fucking Super Mario Brothers fucking
Yeah,
portal.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to them, and I would even question the whole sacrifice thing. I feel like that was what kind of a whole program to just make the natives look more savage. They're like, it's like, look, these guys are fucking, ripping people's hearts off on these pyramids and fucking whatever. I just think that's was probably fucking. Um,
There's also the
I
argument of like what type of people they were though, because I mean there are certain religious practices in history that line up with what they were doing from certain areas. Like for example, the Canaanites who eventually turned into like the Phoenicians and the Semites, stuff like that.
mhm,
Apparently, I mean their old religion that allegedly no longer exists. I mean that's the kind of stuff they were doing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So it's
totally.
like so it lines up with. I mean, some of the old maps and some of the old books we have talk about the Native Americans like being basically Semitic or behaving like Semitic
Mhm,
peoples. So being the lost tribes, for example. So it's, I mean, some of these rituals just could have been, unadulterated, carried over from a time before something happened to where they're separated. Because one thing that you know about these people is that they eventually created like an oral tradition in their religion. So whenever they find like the lost tribes nowadays, they make these lost tribes follow the oral tradition to be accepted back into the community. If they don't do it, then they're not accepted to be legit. Well, I mean, sometimes there's some rare cases where they're accepted back, like the Samaritans, but they're like in special privileges. It's really strange.
hmm,
It's called halakha, but I mean,
like,
I don't know. But we're getting off topic and probably into dangerous territories. But yeah, if anything else you want to share before we hop off
um,
here?
well, just to kind of tie in like the aquifer and like the seawater, freshwater, like just looking up this cenotes right here, it talks about the Yucatan Peninsula contains a vast coastal aquifer system, which is typically density stratified. The infiltrating meteoric water, rainwater floats on top of higher density saline water. So yeah, mix of salt, salt and fresh water. Um, the whole aquifer is therefore landlocked with connection to the ocean, where a cenote or the flooded cave to which is an opening provides deep enough access to the aquifer. So yeah, it's like tapping in the aquifer, and I mean, I haven't dug like super deep into aquifers, and again, that's another thing that like they keep a little shady, but um, like these cenotes are connected to these underground aquifers. Like they never run out of water, dude. You know, it's like these underground aquifers, if there is still water in them, I feel like a lot of them are probably not telling us they're being fed by the springs, underwater springs. Like there's other
Well, that's yeah.
conditions that like these things aren't supposed to ever run out of water. Like you know,
That's what I'm saying, like, because I mean, we keep bringing this up over and over again, and I'm sorry, but the aquifer thing, like, I think that map is just so important because it shows that there is water there now. There should be water on the surface as well. And even though these people have tried to control the water, it's still getting there. It's still overcoming what they've put in place. Like it's fighting back, basically. And if
mhm,
we really needed to, we could dig down and get to that water. So that, I mean,
right.
with these C notes and these blue holes and stuff like that, I mean, that's a whole nother level because people can't really even dive down there safely for whatever reason. What does that lead to? How vast is this connection of water underground? Was it possible to ever be used? Is it possible to use it in the future? Who knows? I mean, there's so much that goes into it, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. There's so much I've and
Like say for example, like you could travel all around the world underground in water, for example. Like, is that possible? Who knows?
right. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure fucking there's some haters out there right now going, no, this idiot, you can't aquifer, the this and that. But yeah, but we don't fucking know. I mean, just look at like This is
See, based
official
on
mainstream fucking shit. These are all the underground aquifers beneath our feet, just in America. Like there was water, there is water. How the fuck do we know? They don't tell us.
yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, appreciate you, man. Thanks for sharing this with us. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate everyone for stopping by tonight. We'll
Yeah,
probably be
yeah,
back here in the near future.
yeah. Thanks for having me and let me rant about all this shit. And dude, it's awesome. There's tons of people in the chat the whole time.
Yeah, we could
It's
have gone
amazing.
off on some tangents there. We kind of restricted ourselves a little bit, which
Totally.
is cool. We tried to stay on topic, but yeah, check out KCN Golden Gate Starfort Command. I put the link in my description. Have a good night,
Awesome.
everyone. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh yeah. Thank you.